It is Sunday evening once again, and that means it's time for another episode of the Auburn Experience podcast. This is going to be our live recording for episode 78. We've got a little Auburn potpourri coming your way, along with two major topics around Auburn basketball schedules for the SEC and wrapping up some spring sports too. All that and talking to you a little bit before and after. Let's get into it. War Eagle Auburn family, and a special War Eagle and welcome to those of you that consider yourselves part of the E2C Network family, the best little family within the Auburn family. I am your host, Kyle. Alongside me, fixing his hair and looking all just nice, is Mr. Austin Scott. Welcome back, sir, to the show.
Thank you. War Eagle to you. Hope you had a great week, sir. It's good to see you again.
It is good to see you as well, especially after the week that I have had. It's good to be back in the saddle. Let me just tell you this, Mr. Scott, that if we tried to do this show yesterday, I would have been like leaned over to the side with a little bit of a back injury I got going on right now. And I would have been like, it's a miracle. We had to do a live stream yesterday for a certain topic we may get to in the show. And I struggled real hard through that to get the words out. It's amazing what back injuries will do to you. Like,
it'll mess everything else up,
especially when you're carrying the weight of the world as an Auburn fan. That's what I brought it all around to what we're doing here.
There you go.
So we have got a lot to get into. What we'd love for you to do to start the show is smash the like button, only if you feel like we've earned it, but also just do it because it's easy. It's the simplest thing you can do. For us, we're going to get started with the live recording here in just a second, but let us know that you're here. Smash the like button, post where you're watching from with a War Eagle. If you have an early comment or question that you'd like for us to address right at the start, you can drop it in right now on the live. I will stay a little bit after the recording is done, and we will just hang out for a few minutes, and I can take some more comments and questions there. Some fine folks already checking in, very familiar faces. Appreciate you guys whenever you're able to join us live. Always love seeing people's comments on the replay, but those of you that are committed to being here live, we appreciate it, sir. Austin, I don't want us to dive into it too much, but because we'll talk about it in the show, but it feels like we are just about at the end of the athletic calendar year for Auburn, basically because of something that just happened.
Yeah, sure does. It's kind of, we're wrapping up. We got, Diamond Sports are ending or have ended officially as of 30 minutes ago. And golf is the last thing we got left, right?
Track and field.
Yes,
and
you're right. I always forget how late that is.
And I believe tennis is still going, at least with some individual championship competition.
Yeah. It's the individuals that get me.
Yes. Which, by the way, we're not going to talk about in the show because I'm not going to throw it on us here in a second. We did get a women's tennis coach named while I was gone on vacation, and we obviously didn't get to talk about it.
True.
So I haven't done enough research about him to discuss that in theory. I had a
A&M assistant.
Yes. And when obviously when you're reading the press release for from Auburn, they're obviously going to tell you the best parts of it and stuff like that. But from what I could tell, it seems like a pretty good hire. At least my limited.
I have not researched it either. But yeah, I agree. I mean, A&M, I think, has a pretty good reputation. So,
and I think the A&M girls are in the championship game right now, or at least round of tennis or something like. I could be wrong on that, but feels like I just read that. This question we will.
Oh yeah, good question.
We will address it in the show, but I guess we could answer it right here. I do not have any information about where we will go. Now, I will tell you that I had a conversation with someone very well connected with the university, the softball program, and they did not give me an indication one way or the other than they felt like we would go with an outside hire. And that was just their impression, and they're connected with it, but it's not like somebody on staff or something like that. That was the impression that I got. Is I can't tell you who, but I can tell you what like away from current standing. Anything to add, Austin, or any thoughts about it? How you feel about it?
Yeah, I think I don't think it will be an inside hire. I guess the main answer there would be, is Emily Carasoni going to
Right.
be elevated? I don't think that that's going to be the case. The names I've heard the most are the Virginia Tech coach and the Oklahoma State coach. I don't know anything about the softball state or softball world. Truthfully, like I know about Auburn. That's about it. But those are two names I feel like I just keep hearing.
I get the impression that the hire will be one from a prominent program this time. Not that James Madison, when Mickey Dean was brought here, was, and still it is to some degree, a prominent softball program.
Hosting super regionals, yeah.
Right. But I feel like you'll have someone at a traditional power conference, especially now that you are bringing Oklahoma, first of all, and Texas into SEC softball competition.
Those are the top 2 seeds in this year's College World Series, by the way.
By the way, just in case you didn't know, this move that was made by the SEC and by those 2 schools choosing to decide wasn't just about football, folks.
No, it was not.
All encompassing. So keep that in mind. All right. We are about at the time we need to start. Good question to start off. We'll probably mention it a little bit more in that actual segment. But for those of you that don't know, for those of you do know, just sit back for a second. We do this for roughly 30 to 45 minutes, 3 10-minute-ish segments, potpourri to start off with, which is just a bunch of Auburn stuff we'll spend short amounts of times on. Then we will talk about our 2 major topics, which will be first about SEC basketball schedules, then, which will release this week for 24-25, and then we will talk about wrapping up baseball and softball, essentially, kind of conveniently, as that just got done minutes ago, sadly, for, some special players on the team and stuff like that. So sit back, enjoy the show. We'll hang out a little bit afterward as well. Are you ready, Mr. Scott?
Yes, sir.
Here we go. Episode 78 coming to you in 3, 2, 1. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You could quantify it, you could qualify it through a variety of methods, times, people, places, things. But at its heart and at its core, the Auburn experience is all about its sports, its culture, and of course, its family. And since this is about the Auburn family, let's get a few of those members in here. You've already heard from me. Starting off, your host, Kyle Loomis, in chair number 2, alongside me, as always, my good friend and yours, Mr. Austin Scott, back for episode 78.
A few of those members are we having special guests that I'm unaware of?
Well, you're a member of the...
I don't have split personality, so I hope that it's not a few more people.
Not that we have found yet.
Okay.
Give it
some time.
Yeah.
Ask my wife. Well, maybe I do.
Let's get her on here, and then let's have.
Oh boy, that's dangerous.
Give some opinions about your personalities that have probably come out during those evenings with the twins.
Can you imagine how off the rails this could get with Emily and or Jessica joining us one time?
It's one of those dreaded things. You and I's favorite radio show talk about having their wives on the show.
We'd be in trouble.
Now, folks have gotten a taste before of Jessica because she has been the longtime co-host of our show that's no longer just running because of just other circumstances.
Sure.
She would love to still be doing it. Tiger Tracks, where we spent about 5-6 seasons together as host and co-host. And really, she was the host. I was just sitting back there providing not great commentary about track and field.
So just everyday life at your house.
Just everyday life at our house. So maybe one day we'll do like a revisit of that or something like that. But times they are busy. Speaking of being busy, let's get busy here with Auburn Potpourri. A little bit of running around to some different topics. Let's start here. And I do hate to always start on these notes, but it is something that is very important for the Auburn family right now. And something that I feel that, unfortunately, we are too often talking about, and that is a tragedy relating around one of our athletes or just members of the Auburn family. And that's just the world that we live in. Unfortunately, tragedies like this happen. If you don't know what we're talking about, we are talking about one Brian Battie that, as of us recording this right now, is in the hospital in what was described as critical condition after being involved in some gun violence, it sounded like, and reportedly resulted also in the loss of life of his brother when they were both together down in Florida. That's what we know as of this recording right now. So things may change over time. I think there was some apparent response from him today in terms of movements of extremities, but outside of that, we don't want to speculate too much. We just want to address the sadness and tragedy of what's already happened with his brother, reportedly, but also what he is currently dealing with, and now his family, just with all of that. It's just a shame, and I hate that we're having to even start off this way.
Yeah, I think it's really important to make sure we say that this is as far as we know, and that's been given to us by other sources or other media outlets, and not to speculate any further, but or what went down, but just hate it for that family, regardless of how they're connected to us in any way. That is a tragedy that is sad to hear about, and just our prayers are with the Batee family and with Brian as he continues to recover. Prayers for his doctors and his family during this time, and just that things would go well. I know you and I share that sentiment, and are certainly lifting him up in prayer.
Yeah, and if you don't believe in the power of prayer, I can attest for that in my own life and what I've seen in other people as well. So if you are a prayer warrior, now is the time, not just for the obviously recovery, hopefully, of Brian, but for what the family will and continue to go through in the coming days, weeks, and months. So obviously we wanted to cover that to start off with, and a little bit of a somber note, but let's cover a few other things that we can discuss. And some of these are pretty good things, pretty happy things, something that's not even super Auburn related, but because it implicates Auburn, we're going to talk about it. A certain video game is making its return, and we are super excited about it. I know I am. There used to be 2 games that I played,
That's it.
That was it. It was Call of Duty for me and NCAA football. Although now it's called EA Sports College Football.
Whatever it is, it's coming back.
Bring me the football on my video screen. Now I've got to go buy a new game system and a new game.
Yeah, like I've been toying with my financial plan for that. I wish it was better, but we got some months to work up to this. So
we do, except that I just had the opportunity, I would call it, to have to buy a new car. Unfortunately, well, with a certain thing I referenced last week.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be fun addition of trying to squeeze in a few $100 more to get a new system and stuff. Anyway, the reveal, the official trailer came out this week. If you looked at one of the covers, and I think we talked about this on a previous episode, you'll see a tiny little Auburn flag in there. So we were represented in that way. But I've even seen other content creators quantify and like show you who all was represented. Auburn is nowhere to be seen in the official trailer. Your thoughts about
that?
It's
a bummer. I think there are certain because I'm with you, that I've noticed there are people that have gone ahead and figured out who all was in the trailer. And I think there are certain reasons that certain aspects of the game were featured. I think this is more of one. There's always been this thing of the small schools, right? Like a huge part of college football 25 or any of these games is you build the dynasty, right?
Right.
From the small schools. I think that was highly emphasized. And then as well, I think there's been a lot of people worried that they're just going to cheaply make this game and it's going to be another Madden game, just with college teams. And I think you saw a lot of college football tradition and emphasis in it now.
Which is why
I would argue that the Eagle flight is one of the most college traditional things there is. So it's unfortunate that we saw Wyoming and the Army and Alabama and Georgia and Auburn was not mentioned or shown. But that adds a little more level of suspense for us to wait to see what the game is. Kyle, my question for you: when you and I both miraculously get this console, get this game, what will be the very first thing you do when you fire it up?
Oh, I will run the read option with Auburn. I will go back to the glory days of the read option, and I will run the pants off anybody who tries to come up against me with the read option.
That means you will be running the read option with Peyton Thorne and Jarquez Hunter.
That is true, and Peyton Thorne can move. Now, if they give him the stats, we'll see if they give him the stats.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough. At home?
Anywhere. I don't care. I'll run the read option and run people's pants off. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, I look forward to it. We're gonna have to discuss how we do an episode with when it comes out and everything.
Us playing while we're doing like episode 90 or whatever. I don't know how long it's going to take us to get that. I'm not going
That'll have to be a video only episode somehow.
Yes, exclusive or something.
That's right.
Like that. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But I'm super excited. A little bit miffed that Wyoming twice. That's all I'm saying. And no Auburn. But hey, we'll take it that we're our best when we're underestimated.
That's right.
Underappreciated. So we got them right where we want them.
That's right.
Let's keep talking about some Auburn potpourri topics here. Let's give a shout out to probably the marquee thing of the spring and of the year, as we addressed last episode. And that is the continual just dominance of not just men's golf, but women's golf. And we're going to start off with men's golf, who right after we did last week's episode, secured their spot in the national championship with rounds with several other teams, obviously, with a roaring round 3 in the regional play, and dominated and established. And I don't think there's been a time where you look at what a team's body of work in golf, like I've been covering it for that long, and say that, okay, this is the team that should be expected to win. And it's Auburn we're talking about. Auburn's been good at golf, but I think you look at their body of work and you say, this is the team that should win this. Not to be outdone. We talked about how women's golf began as individuals with Megan Schofield. They've continued that throughout the year. They are also in the championship rounds as well. What a year for Auburn golf.
Oh yeah. And number 1 rankings all over the place. Teams that are, everyone's looking up to Auburn right now in the golf, in the collegiate golf world. And so it's going to be exciting. I would love nothing more than for us to sweep the men's and women's national championships in golf and have a big old party at Toomer's Corner to close the year. So really looking forward to, I think, is that this upcoming week?
I don't have the schedule off the top of my head, but I feel like it is, at least for the men's side of thing, because they just, wrapped up 5 days ago or something, 6 days ago. So we're getting close to that time. I just know that we're going to have to go back out to California again. Yet again to compete for something. And that's just been Auburn West of sorts this year. But huge congratulations go around to both programs, but especially with the way that Auburn men's golf just asserted themselves in that final round. What an impressive feat. Super excited to watch them end out our spring season effectively with some other sports that we'll get into in just a little bit. Maybe as a final few notes, it's been a big transfer portal and recruiting week. One I do want us to talk about very quickly is Jaheim, or I tried to
Jaheim. You trust your gut.
I gotta start trusting my gut. Jaheim Hudson, not Howard, as I continue to try to put his last name as, because we've got Ja'Kai Howard coming in.
Correct.
We did the math pre-show to figure out why I was messing that up. Anyway, tangent. Jaheim Hudson is your latest transfer in for Auburn men's basketball. Austin, I feel like effectively you could call this the replacement for Jalen Williams, who is out of eligibility. If there was a way to get him back on the court, I would, because I love I love that man as much as I can possibly. I would literally run through a wall for Jalen Williams. Hudson, and him coming in from SMU, originally started at Georgia State, coming to SMU. Your thoughts of this transfer?
Yeah, I think you're right. It'll replace Jalen Williams in the sense of there's a 4 spot, someone to play the 4. I think it'll be very interesting to see the battle or the allocation of minutes between him and Chaney Johnson. When Jalen Williams got injured toward the latter half of the year, Chaney came on and came on strong. So it's someone to push Chaney. If he takes over the job, then he has done a better job than Chaney. If not, then I think we have a serviceable backup who has 2 years left and has played a lot of college basketball. So look, I think the biggest thing for Bruce Pearl and a lot of Auburn coaches, it seems like, is to find the right culture fit. I think they probably did that with Jaheim Hudson. There were other options, and I think that this one probably makes the most sense for Auburn in the moment. Not sure Auburn basketball is done quite yet with adding. I think they'll probably still look to add one more piece, but Jaheim Hudson is another puzzle piece put in for what next year could look like.
Yeah, and if you look at the way that the scholarships that are available out there, there's technically 2, I believe, available still. But as we've discussed, Bruce likes to keep that one
That's right.
available if he can to reward a walk-on of sorts. But I think a guard is heading our way. But for now, one spot that we really needed to fill is filled, and we welcome Mr. Hudson to Auburn basketball. As a final note to the recruiting things, just very quickly, we did have 2 pickups this week, one for a transfer for this upcoming year, one that could have implications for future recruiting out there. You have got Mr. Antoine Fagans coming in, a defensive back, but also a commit as of yesterday, I believe, for the 2025 class. Dante Core out of Fort Walton Beach will join the 2025 class, bringing it currently to 11. That is your Auburn potpourri. We have got 2 major topics to discuss right now. We're going to jump into some discussion of SEC basketball schedules that just got released, and then we'll wrap up some spring stickball sports, baseball and softball. But before we do that, we have got to talk about our friends at Magic Mind. I know all of you are getting geared up for your summer vacations. I've already apparently taken one of mine. But what that is going to mean is that you're going to be taking road trips, that you're going to be needing to get up early for what you call them excursions. If you're on a cruise, things like that, you're going to need something to give you some energy, some focus to tackle your day, whether you use it on its own or in addition to something that you're already using. Let me introduce to you our friends at Magic Mind. They have got a great supplement that you can take, a little energy shot. You've heard about some other ones out there. The bad thing with those is typically those are not as good for your health overall with some of the things that you're putting into your body. They have solved that problem by giving you an energy shot that has got a focus driven into its formula, but also is going to be just as effective, but better for your overall health, especially if you've got allergies to certain things out there. If you're someone that wants a lower sugar portion in your diet, this is going to be one thing that you want to take a look at. Visit them at magicmind.com/Auburn. Use our code AUBURN, spell it out, sing it as you're spelling it out into that discount code. You will get a 56% off a subscription or 20% off a one-time purchase. As someone who's tried it myself, I can attest to their claim to tackling energy and focus, and I hope that you'll give them a try. Again, visit magicmind.com/Auburn. That code is AUBURN. First big topic we got to talk about tonight, Austin. It is summer. We're still going to talk about, well, it's not technically summer. It's spring, summer, that transition to that. I digress.
It's hot enough. It's summer.
It's always season to talk basketball, especially when it's Auburn basketball stuff. I was surprised this week, Austin, that we got the announcement for the SEC 2024-2025 opponents. I want to be very clear when I say that. This is not dates,
no
times. This is just you will play this team here, this team there, and this is who you will play multiple times. We got that news this week. I can give you that list in just a second, but is this like typical? Like, do they normally give us this early in the cycle?
Well, I was only surprised we didn't have a 3-hour SEC Network special for it. That was my only shock. I'm sure that'll come when we release the dates and we all have to sit and wait for forever to hear it. But truthfully, I don't remember when this normally comes out. But it did feel like it was just like, okay, here it is. Here we go.
I do feel like this was normally like a July announcement. It felt like something right before SEC Media Days for football got going, before all the focus shifted there. And then after that, you would, as the summer went along, you would see some smattering in of we're playing this non-conference opponent, this non-conference. A lot of that's been figured out because we know we're playing in Maui this year, which I am so excited for.
Yeah, you're going, right?
I wish. Why you got to dig the knife harder? Like, just remind me that I can't afford to go see my team in Hawaii, a place that I've literally had like flights planned to twice, and they've both gotten canceled.
I figured you're rooming with Bill Walton.
No, I hope Bill Walton's not there.
I hope so too, brother.
That's a strange man. He'll just start shouting, "Oh Kiki, oh Kiki!" And isn't that who he was fixated on?
That sounded a little more like Dick Vitale, but I'm gonna let you slide.
It was something like that. No, I just don't. Oh baby, diaper dent. No,
that is Dick Vitale. It's okay. It's okay.
That's a terrible impression.
Moving on
from that, let me give you the official list of teams that we will play. Let's break it down. I think we could, by the end of this, after talking about it, maybe give some early thoughts about what maybe a record or a prediction way too early might look like. But
Way too early.
home, who you will be playing in the SEC this year: Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. If that's not exciting enough for you, here's your away schedule: Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Texas, A&M, and then Vanderbilt. There's a bunch of different ways that we can break this down, Austin. Let me start right here and just address how nice I feel it is to see Oklahoma and Texas officially on the SEC basketball schedule. I am pumped to have them here. And I may be in the minority, but I am.
Yeah, no, pretty cool, and I think it's going to be really exciting. I'll be honest, I was kind of bummed that we're getting Oklahoma at home for football this year. I thought maybe we'd switch it up for basketball and just get to see another part of a university at least come to Auburn. Not the case this year, so we'll have the burnt orange come another time. But I mean, you got to like that home schedule a lot. You're always going to have Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss, and then you're always going to return the favor by going there.
Yep.
But I mean, look, Arkansas with Coach Cal comes to Auburn. We've had plenty of success against him there. Tennessee, you have to love being able to have them. I have a feeling that'll be somewhere in the toward the end of the schedule, like it feels like it always is.
It's just conveniently put there for some reason.
I mean, it's just like we don't think about these things ever, do we?
That's almost like they expect Auburn and Tennessee to factor into the end to make things exciting. They wouldn't do something like that, would they, Austin?
Never. We never think about things like
It's
that.
never, decisions are never made about money, are they?
No, it's for the good of the game.
It just means more.
Just means more cash.
It just means more money is exactly what it means.
Now, I did see, and I wanted to check in on you and make sure you're okay. It looks like we are traveling to a certain place in Nashville again.
Why do you have to talk about that?
Because this is a therapy session right here. I'm saving Jessica from hearing it. If it's not her, it's me.
The only thing that makes up for us having to go to that monstrosity of a arena, it's not even worthy being called an arena, a coliseum, whatever they call it. We're talking about Vanderbilt, folks. Yeah. The most stupid thing that's ever been created in the realm of basketball. And I can think of a bunch of other things I'm not going to get people stirred up about at this moment. Like it's less of a stupid decision to go from Auburn to Alabama than to play at this court. And I'm talking about Aiden Holloway. Like that's how angry this makes me.
It does feel like we've played a lot there and they have not played a lot here. Now, I have nothing to back that up. We could have played them more times in the last 5 years in Auburn, Alabama than we have in Nashville. I have no idea, but it just feels like we go there a lot.
It feels like nobody should ever have to go there.
Well, I know.
But I digress. Thank you for bringing that up. Let's move on to happier topics. What I noticed that you brought up right away was the home schedule. And there's obvious reasons, because that's your best opportunity to see the teams. Duh. But I think you're bringing this up because you notice that I think arguably the toughest games as a collective are going to be played at home. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I would. I think, I look at the road schedule to try and combat that. You go to at Kentucky. Obviously, Rupp Arena is going to be a place that is difficult. We don't know what this team will look like this year. It's the first time in quite a long time they have a change in leadership. And then at A&M is always hard for Auburn and anybody with Buzz Williams. But I mean, outside of that, you look at a lot of places Auburn has had a lot of success in the past, and then you look at what is perceived to be the upper echelon teams in the conference are all coming to Neville Arena. So, yeah, I mean, I think it bodes well for Auburn on paper so far.
So this is the way, when this news broke, I broke it down for myself at least. So I'm putting in like the tough games, the probably the most important games list for home: Alabama, Arkansas, Florida. We just played in the SEC championship game and won, mind you. You've also got Tennessee. I'm going to throw Oklahoma in there. I know they're not as to the top they have been previously. But it's a new thing. There's going to be excitement around it. So
Great coach.
a good coach. I'm just going to throw that in there because I think it's important. So those 5, and then I'm going to throw Mississippi State in there too. I think that one, seeing how they did to end out the season in the SEC tournament, especially, is one to keep your eye on. Compare that with the away games where your clear front runners for most important, most crucial games are going to be at Alabama, at Kentucky, A&M, as you brought up. And then I would argue Texas. Now, Lamont Paris at South Carolina, I think obviously what they did this year was great, but the question is it sustainable?
Lost a lot. Lost a lot of key people.
But that doesn't happen by accident. So credit goes to Lamont Paris there, but I think it's a fair statement to say Auburn's tougher schedule, not saying it's easier on the road, not going to be difficult on the road, just at home, the toughest games are going to be there. I think it's a fair statement.
I agree.
I'll stick to it on that. So, but when you look at this, what do you think? We're asking the question, early predictions. What's your gut telling you about how Auburn can fare in this SEC opponent lineup?
Yeah, I'm eyeballing, counting it out, kind of seeing what I think. I think, best case scenario, look at home first. I think Auburn it's very widely known. The Neville Arena has in the jungle have an extreme home court advantage. There always seems to be 1 or 2 slip ups. And so I think with home, I'm looking at, I'll say 1 loss. I don't know where in there. I'm going to say 1 loss in there. So that would put you at what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 home wins with a 1 loss, and then maybe road record. So it's always harder to play at Coleman. Rupp is in there. I think if Auburn as a ceiling, I don't want to say a ceiling. I think it's very possible Auburn has a 4 to 5 loss SEC conference schedule.
Yeah.
And you look, given the past few seasons, that's good enough to win this league. And so I'm going to say Auburn has 3 to 5, somewhere in that range, SEC losses as of what we know right now.
I'm going to agree with you a little bit. The way I look at it for myself is first that there's away schedules, because that's going to be the crucial thing.
Right.
We know how well Auburn does as Neville, as you already brought up. Very tough games there. We've even said that's probably going to be the tougher part of the schedule is the home schedule. But I look at for a couple of losses of high potential. That's going to be Alabama. That's going to be probably Kentucky just because of history. I'm not going to assume just because a new coach is there, they're going to be susceptible. It's still Rupp Arena. I'm also going to say that there's going to be a third somewhere in there. Probably I'm feeling like a Texas or someone, maybe even A&M. So I'm going to say minimum of 3 away losses this year, which wouldn't be bad. And one of the knocks against Bruce has been that he has trouble winning on the road as much as he does at home, but you're literally comparing Neville to playing on the road. I mean, that's just incredible disparity of support and energy that you get from playing home versus away, especially when you got the jungle behind you. I look at the home record. I could see 2 easy losses there that could potentially happen, meaning one is a Tennessee, an Alabama, a Florida, and one that's maybe a little bit surprising. I think you would probably say Ole Miss might be a little bit surprising based on how we handled them last year and them losing some talent too. So you said 4 to 5 losses in SEC. Is that where
I think it's going to be somewhere around 13-5, 14-4, a low end of maybe 12-6.
I'm doing a better job of setting expectations for myself, and I'm going to say 13-5 if I'm doing my math correctly to start right now.
As of what we know right now. Yeah.
As of what we know right now, let's see how that last piece comes into the roster, hopefully at the guard position. Let's kind of get a feel for some of these fall practices. Yes, because they start in the fall. And you never know. We might get a little bit excited about what we may see with Janai's final year here, Dylan's final year here. So many things to be excited about. And this is just a taste of it with the SEC schedule. So we'd love to hear your thoughts about it, your opinions, and of course, your way too early predictions. So let us know. Big topic number 2 tonight we have got to discuss. It is with great sadness that I say that the big sports, and let's just be honest, these are the ones that get the most attention in the spring portion of it. Baseball and softball are officially done.
Officially.
In May. Can I repeat to you that it's in May? That is not a good thing in essence.
No.
Although that doesn't mean we can't find some good things to talk about amongst that. So this is what we want to just do, a debrief of the big two sports of spring, baseball and softball, as they have literally as of an hour ago. Yeah. Officially wrapped up with softball falling to Florida State in the NCAA regionals. I think we should start with baseball because I think that is the bigger story of the year. They had a great ending, getting 2 SEC wins, series wins to end out the year. Took all year.
Yeah.
We got there. Beat Georgia Tech on the road. So one thing that continually cannot be said about Butch Thompson teams is that they quit. They do not quit. Now, just because you don't quit doesn't mean you don't run into adversity. So this was a year, the way I have expressed it to people, Austin, is I equated this to Jeremy Johnson. And I say that with all the love that I can about Jeremy Johnson, but it was such a crazy thing. We literally saw Jeremy Johnson as a quarterback be legit in SEC action. There was no reason it shouldn't have worked once he fully took over. We saw this team as a pitching staff, which became its Achilles heel, do some good things early on. Pieces like Joseph Gonzalez were back. You really thought you had, I'm blanking on other names at this moment.
Chase
Alsop back. You had some new blood that was coming up here. I really thought this was going to be a year, maybe not, we're not talking like we've got a number 1 draft pick again in pitching, but it was going to be good enough with the hitting that we thought we had, and it just wasn't. What didn't work this year? Is that it? Was it just the pitching?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like it. It felt like it. That was the theme throughout the year. Like you said, a lot of veterans came back in pitching, and it looked like this staff would certainly be one of the most experienced and have the talent that could be there, the talent potential, and it just never seemed to work in conference play. It never seemed to really be able to hold up its end of the bargain. And it's unfortunate. And I think that, there's going to be some questions going into off season on Butch being a pitching guy. Is this something he decides to take over more seriously? Everett Tiefer just finished his first season on the Plains as pitching coach. What is his future? How did he like being back in college? We'll have to see. I think those are all questions that Butch is going to have to decide on and answer. I think that it would be silly to think that Butch's job is in question. That seems like a bold statement to make, but I don't see how you can look at Butch Thompson and say that he's not qualified or fit to lead this program just because of a single digit win year in the SEC, which we already know is stacked. I think that this will be a rebound. It was a fluke year. It'll be a rebound for this team. Now there's got to be work to be done. You got to keep some key components from going off to other places and do some portal recruiting work of your own. But pitching was the Achilles heel. That's a great way to put it, like you did. It just never was able to hold up its end of the bargain with the talented bats that Auburn had. So that's the big question mark with this team going into next year is how do you fix the pitching staff?
I've got an unpopular take around the pitching discussion, and this is related to so many different things when it comes to Auburn people's opinions that they think are so welcome online sometimes. The answer can't always be someone has to be fired. And I'm not just necessarily talking about Butch Thompson. We just changed pitching coaches last year, and people were screaming, that's the thing that's going to fix it. Well, clearly it didn't. Maybe the answer is a little patience. And I don't know. I don't know what Butch's priorities are. Maybe he wants more control, as you said, over the pitch. Maybe Everett Tiefer doesn't want to be here after. I do not have any information on that. But I find it very, it's just low effort and energy to come up with that as your take.
Low hanging fruit. Yep.
Fire somebody because I didn't like the results of it. And sometimes that's warranted. We saw that 2 years ago, a year ago, I guess, technically, with a football team. It was warranted. But I just would encourage you all. That's not always the answer. But sometimes we'll see what happens with it. The answer is the pitching was the Achilles heel. And then when maybe they started getting a little bit of momentum, the batting just knew they probably couldn't rely on it and had some injuries. not a great year, but you do take a series from your arch rival at home, nearly sweep them, and you kind of ruin it. You also, for your record too, you finish above 500,
Yeah.
27-26. So if we're going to take more victories, you take what you can get.
That's right.
But that's one thing that you could talk about. Let's switch to softball here, which had a much better year. But this, I think, was a defining year. We've talked about it on previous episodes where a lot of people felt like if this didn't get going the way they felt it needed to, that a change was needed at head coach softball. We saw probably about a month ago, after a very frustrating time during the softball season, that Coach Mickey Dean did step out and express his desire to step down at the end of the year. And we will be in a transition year as of an hour ago. Who is the head coach? We don't know. There's a lot of people with opinions out there who would be. We discussed it a little pre-show that maybe we will be heading in at least maybe a feeling of a well-known team, and maybe one with some Power 5, if you like to think about it that way, in softball experience, but no really names to throw, unless you've got names, Austin, you want to share or think about.
No, I think that, while when there's changes that happen in season, that there's obviously a lot of lead time to be able to figure out who you want to go after. I'm sure John Cohen's been doing that. I think it's important to remember, John Cohen is his past successful baseball mind and sport. Now I know it's a different sport and totally different, but it is the counterpart. Okay. So let's not act like it's just foreign. So I'm excited to see who he interviews, who he hires. It's always tricky with these other sports, that don't get quite the intense coverage. I'm interested to see if we'll hear names or if we'll just find out who's the hire, and that's probably how it'll go. But I'm with you. I think it'll probably be an outside hire. I really like Hannah Sparks. I really like Emily Carasoni. I think both have done great things for Auburn. Just kind of get my gut that it'll be an outside hire, maybe a head coach somewhere else.
And ironically, we were discussing when Emily Carasoni was named associate head coach. I feel like it's almost a year ago now, that might be a signal of the incumbent or the eventual head coach, but doesn't necessarily always mean that. I'm sure she'll at least get a look or a mention about it, because, having her here and being an Auburn person, that does carry some weight for you. We'll watch and see that. What I do want to point out is this year they could have phoned it in, especially after the announcement. Yep. And they didn't. They made it to the NCAA tournament, had some very exciting games there with UCF, took care of business to get to the final games versus Florida State. By the end of that game this evening, it got a little bit out of hand, but for a while there, it looked like Auburn was going to be pushing FSU to a very late night final game to decide at all who was going to go take on Oklahoma. If there's a silver lining, you don't have to play Oklahoma this year. You will again. Let's save that for next year, potentially. If they come here or we go there, it'll only get tougher with having them as part of the SEC. I just want to extend my congratulations for a career, I'm a very well-renowned career for Mickey Dean. We thank him for his time here. He took over a program that was reeling from a scandal, and that is a tough thing. He took over a program coming back from that during a pandemic, and that takes a lot. And there was a lot of strife amongst the team at times. And I think if you've watched some of the narratives that have happened, some of those changes, while we're not happy about at the time, probably were the right choice. Is that a hot take? Maybe it is. All
be playing at the same time as Auburn as well.
Also might not be. So, sometimes attitudes get in the way. All in all, I do thank Mickey Dean for his time here as head coach. And I'm happy that he gets to go out on his own terms. But it is nice to see it happen this way. And as you brought up, one of the great things is that Auburn knew this was coming and already got to work. And they did this in a way that honors Mickey Dean, but sets them up for stability going forward. That's a key thing for some of the other sports programs out there. Why don't we get the ball rolling before we?
If I remember correctly, too, he'll be sticking around.
In an emeritus
role, administrative type of role. So
something like that, I think. Maybe emeritus was stepping out a bit, but he will be working with the athletic department.
Yeah, which I think is great. I think one of the best quotes we've had from a long time for former coaches. He was not an Auburn man, but has become one through his time here. So I think everything you said honors Mickey Dean, and we appreciate his time on the plains, and hope that we see him at Byron's for some breakfast every now and then, and that he has a good time hanging around the plains.
It's hard to leave Auburn when you get a taste of
Sure
it.
is.
We all know that who've lived there as a student, or if you've just visited there, you know how it is. But to end out the year, their final record, 20, if it's updated, I believe it is 29-21-1. Not a bad year making it to the tournament, but we did send Mickey Dean out, at least by competing in that aforementioned tournament. So that'll do it for baseball, for softball, and of course, that'll do it for the show here. We appreciate you all being here, hanging out with us for episode 78. Hope you can join us again. We will probably have an off week because it is the Memorial Day weekend. And if I remember correctly, Austin's got something coming up. I do as well. But just anticipate episode 79 being 2 weeks from now, unless you hear otherwise from us. We appreciate you tuning in. If you want to find me, do so on X at Kyle Loomis 24. Where can they find you?
Yep, X or Instagram at Austin G. Scott.
Thanks for tuning in, hanging out until we get to talk to you again. War Eagle.
War Eagle.
All right, folks, that is the show. Thank you to Mr. Scott for being part of it. I heard little twins in the background, I think. So are they unhappy?
Did you?
No, it's not. It wasn't bad, but I think I'm attuned to it now. So.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I have heard them. So
maybe I was hearing my cats call.
They do sound similar at times.
They're what? Oh, I see her now. She's in there. Yeah, we have it's called Podcat.
I hope they're asleep. I do know about Podcat.
Podcat was named by Clint, and she is over there somewhere.
Hey, we need. You know what? And this is just some talk behind the curtain for everyone else. My wife is pretty awesome. She's been finding some great thrift store finds. I think we need another show and tell day soon.
Listen, whenever show and tells are always welcome.
I don't know if it would be a little chaotic probably for recording only, but we can try and work it. Just a summer thing, you know, when we're lacking.
This is our show. We can do whatever we want. Who cares?
I think we should do it. My dad's birthday was yesterday, so happy birthday, Dad. He's not in the comments tonight. He's probably throwing a party. But I gave him some things from an estate sale that we went to that are pretty cool. So you
can find some good things around Auburn if you search hard enough.
Oh, you got to put the time and work in. But yes, you can.
Clint told me about finding a legitimate track and field outfit or uniform that wasn't too old at a thrift store. And I was like, well, that's a pretty cool find because it's not something people like search for or anything like that. There's Mr. Scott in the chat. Happy early birthday, or today is the birthday?
Late yesterday.
Late birthday. I'm
sure like 84 or something like that.
Wow. I was trying to set up something nice, and your son just like ran right over me. Jeez, my goodness. All right, final thoughts for you, sir. Anything else before you head out?
I don't think I have anything. I didn't know if we talked about it or not. I am gone next Sunday, so for Memorial Day.
I felt like we had already discussed that, and so that's why I left the door open just in case. But I wanted people to expect. So yes, I could do a show next week with somebody else, but I think we're going to take the week off just because. And we've warned you about this. The summer, there are a few times where we'll need to make that happen just to accommodate everybody's schedules. But we are still excited to be back with you guys in 2 weeks together, at the very least together in 2 weeks for the next episode.
June 2nd. Yep.
All right, Mr. Scott, thanks for hanging out and being part of the experience, as you always are.
Thanks for having me. War Eagle.
War Eagle. All right, folks, you can hang out with me for a few more minutes. Don't be shy. Hop on into the chat if you are watching live. I think we had a good crowd tonight watching live. It seemed like, looking across all the different platforms that we broadcast to. So thanks for tuning in. I always want to encourage you guys to download the actual podcast for this. Now, it is our podcast. It's like our content wide network. So you're going to find other shows there besides this, but this is the main weekly show outside of when we take a vacation, like we are this week, that you can expect to see. So if you will download that for us, leave a review. That is a humongous help in the podcast world. That would be very much appreciated. I know that some of you listen here and that's how you get it in, but never know, you might listen again or and find something, or just download it for us. It's a huge help. All right. I want final comments, questions, and stuff for us to hit to end out the show here. So drop those in. Let me get to our final reminders and things like that for you. Your next opportunity to catch us live here on a regularly scheduled basis will be this Wednesday. We're going to be talking about the Auburn Family Night. It's our live call-in show, discuss anything and everything Auburn related. Whatever you want to discuss, it is up to you. Your calls, your comments, your questions. 8 p.m. Wednesday evening. Be there or be square. Make sure if you are a TikTok follower or person, if you're on the TikToks, yes, I get all the controversy about it, but we're there. Join us there for typically mostly every weekday live streams around lunch. That will be a little bit different this week. I am traveling, but I will be able to do some. That's another way to get some regular content from us, somewhat scheduled. Got lots of videos that I'm planning for you guys this week outside of live streams and things like that. But those are some things to keep in mind to get you through the week ahead. And obviously, since we won't be together this Sunday for the episode 79 recording, but we appreciate you all consuming, taking in our content, and being the best little family within the Auburn family. All right. Any comments, questions, things that you would all like to discuss? 313 Edit said earlier, I wonder if the NCAA 25 game will have Tiger Walk and the Eagle Flight before games at Auburn. I think it is assured that the Eagle Flight will be in there. It will depend, I think, on what they do for Tiger Walk, because it's easy just to have a crowd of people, and showing the players walk through, but will they have the details like the banner that's held up every time where we always broadcast from when we do live Tiger Walks from you? Will it actually show the details of the baseball stadium that they walk past, the parking lot? That will be the determining factor if they did some generic thing or actually did our version of do they show the tiger statue that they pass by, the revered coaches and administrator statues that they walk past going into Jordan-Hare Stadium, the namesakes, and Pat Dye Field, for all of that. That will be the details. So it's a great question. I don't know what they're going to do outside of having the Eagle Flight in there, but they should have definitely shown that in the reveal trailer. Looks like we got a lot of regular people that checked in there. Travis said about the softball coaching situation, Hannah Sparks should be a prime candidate, played at Oklahoma and won a natty there as a player and coach. You don't have to sell me too hard on anybody coming from the Oklahoma program, because they are the standard keepers right now. And when it comes to softball, there's no team that feels better about their chances of coming in right away and dominating a new conference than Oklahoma. So if we would like to go that route of bringing someone in from the Sooners, either that's currently there or at least connected with them strongly, like Hannah Sparks seems to be, I will be all on board for that. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know what's best for the softball program. But I will trust John Cohen and his decisions going forward, as all of you should. But as I said during the show, I think I'm happy with the way things turned out for the ending. You very rarely get to see a coach make the decision for themselves. And some of you will say, well, was he told? Regardless, he's going out in a way that's more respectful and admirable, stepping aside, at least publicly, and letting the program move on past him. And that there's some respect that should be given for that, and the ability for a program to respond quickly and also be given time to make some decisions. So wherever they go, we will watch and wait. I get the feeling that we won't have to wait too long. Maybe a few weeks, we'll know who the next Auburn softball coach would be. Just a feeling, a prediction, no really hunch, like information behind that. Anything else that you guys want to talk about? I am honestly shocked we didn't have more commentary about the NCAA game. I got to stop calling it that, college football 25 game. I plan to do some stuff for our channel here. I just got to get the money moved around in the right places to get the new system. My old system, I realized how old it was, and I'm looking at it right now. It's hanging on by a thread, like a real thread. And hopefully I can get that figured out for upcoming here. But we got till July till the game comes out, and you can expect probably some broad, like, what do you call them? Preview playthrough games of like the computers playing each other for like the upcoming weeks or something like that. We'll do something. I'll play some. I know a lot of you enjoy that type of content, so we're definitely thinking through some of those things. All right, I think we have covered the gist of it. Thank you all so much for being here. We are going to miss you on this week off of the Auburn Experience. Keep in mind, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Now, I will always say this: if there's something that determines that we need to do an episode, we'll make it happen. But you can expect right now for us to be off next Sunday. Probably we'll put a video up about this time so you guys can watch that. So won't get not used to seeing something on a Sunday evening. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.